Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and moreover, a huge thanks to everyone who watched, commented, messaged, picked the phone up, etc., on that one. It was lovely to kind of chat and get the feedback through. We had, some comments from all sorts really, some colleagues, some friends, some family. Perhaps even more importantly, parents, carers of those with special needs, to say, look, this could be an important thing or carry some value. And we had some really good suggestions in terms of future topics, things that we could cover. So this video is going to be fairly short and sweet, really to say thank you and to explain, I think, the format as well. A few queries around the format of what we're going to do with the channel. So really, it's going to be split into two parts. The first part, very simply, is going to be a vlog of how we're getting on as a family, some of the the processes, the challenges, particularly as Finn moves from full-time education to transitions to adulthood, and how that works out. So through that's a good way we think of documenting our journey and we're up to, but equally be sharing some of those experiences to help particularly those who perhaps are about to go through it or in the future going through something similar. I won't say identical, because I think everyone's path can differ somewhat, but just to share our learnings and then hopefully de-stress or make things a bit more straightforward for other people. So that's going to be the first part. It's more of kind of an informal vlog, which will be myself and Bex, or Bex, depending on diaries and other commitments. The other piece is probably going to be slightly more structured in terms of we'll go through various themes and various topics that we want to cover off. So thanks again to the feedback of what people have been providing, but we're likely going to have perhaps a section on healthcare and well-being, another one around education, one around support for parents, carers, etc., and then some practical videos in terms days out, dealing with travel, holidays, etc. So we've got, wrongly or rightly at the moment, about 25, 30 videos, topics in mind. I think they'll fold up into probably 4 or 5 categories, and we'll make sure that through the way that we present and we put them on YouTube, that they are structured. So if certain things aren't of relevance to someone, then you wouldn't need to even venture there. However, if there is something and you want to look at a certain topic, then you can perhaps through playlists we'll work out how to get any underlying videos fitting there, just to make sure things are neat. So and expect those to start fairly soonish. I thought whilst I'm here, just to talk about from the vlog perspective, what we're up to. So it was half term recently for us in the UK. So I had a few days off work to do a bit of life admin, as I think I was calling it. So we've had, just prior to that, we'd had like an annual review, like a team around the child meeting with the school, where they bring in the respective specialists. So not just from an education perspective, but occupational therapist, social worker, like a transition support person, someone appointed to help us hopefully move between the current setting and then the scary wide world of Finn being 18 plus. So someone appointed to that, and I guess the idea of it is to get inputs from those key areas. Attendance can vary a bit, so it's a bit reliance on the school, so the headmaster kind of facilitates, but also on ourselves, just to make sure that ideally people are there, and if they're not there, then they feed in their kind of feedback, and then that forms the objectives, the actions for what we want Finn to achieve, how it's going to be achieved, and then it's a bit of a baseline to track against it. So a lot of the discussion was unsurprisingly related to what's the next steps after school. I think we went in saying, is there going to be any expectation for Finn to have any kind of focus on education? after that, which wasn't the case. And in fact, the school kind of suggested fairly strongly, but in a good way, that that perhaps that wouldn't be best for him. And from discussions that Bex and I have had, to put him through a bit of academia and stuff like that kind of isn't where we're at. We don't think that, we think he'd struggle with it. We don't think there'd be much benefit in doing that. And our preference is a simple one, which is to keep him happy. So if he's in a setting with less routine and less kind of academic pressures, then our preference, it might sound a bit, it's not normal, but this is, I guess, isn't a normal setup, but our preference would be for that. And then the focus is then on life skills for him, and just trying to get him further out and about, even shopping, looking after himself, see with help, visiting places, getting more comfortable with other children, something he struggles with because he's on the autistic spectrum, so he does struggle with others, but we'd much rather he focus on life skills than anything to education based, building relationships. So we see how we do with that. We do need to make these decisions around, okay, what happens after, where does he go? And obviously that's dependent on the area that you're in. We have probably a handful of places, a few of which were recommended as part of that session. So we've started to visit them. We visited a fantastic one. I won't name names because we're going through the process in our head. But so at this stage, I won't name particular settings. We went to one, and it was fantastic, kind of rural Essex where we live. Pretty homely. It wasn't kind of clinical in any way. It was very, very, very nice. Kind of small numbers, 4 to 5 adults on any given day. And very well, manages the setting, but also so you evaluate, as one does, the people, their plans, how they come across. It's one of those kind of first impressions count, and they did a very good job, and so much so that they've said, look, wherever in the area, feel free. It's kind of a bit gated. There's a few other places nearby, and you've got your key codes. It's pretty. Good, say high in terms of security. So if you're ever in the vicinity, pop by, and then that kind of help build up familiarity, not just for us, but for Finn as well. But it's early days. We've got a few others to visit, and I think the thing that struck me a little bit is that, and this came from the meeting with the school, but there's no obligation on places to take an adult in. It's very much it's down to them. So I guess it's got to be a bit of a reciprocal thing. It's got to work for us and work for the setting. But I guess that puts a little bit of pressure on us, not just to find the right place, but if we do find the right place, or when we find the right place, just to try and cross fingers and then ensure that he lands there is important. Funding as well. Kind of how's that going to work? So again, through this kind of transition manager is part of the local authority. She's like, look, you focus on what you need, and then the business case, and that they'll support the monetary side of things. And it's an interesting one because quite often it shouldn't be said, but across Finn's life, there's a lot of discussions around budget, and we're not naive to the news and everyone being under the cosh, including the local authorities, schools, NHS, every bloody sector. But for us, I wouldn't say it's selfishly. If it is selfish in the right way, we don't give a damn. Our responsibility as parents is to kind of get the optimal for Finn, and then if there's political, financial decisions, then that's on those departments. We will shout, argue, debate to get the best possible thing for our son, which I think is what any parents should be really doing, naturally. So that was an interesting chat around the funding. The transition itself, I think, is pretty key. So from the primary school that Finn was at to the secondary school, theoretically, it all sounded great, but in practice, it was very much a challenge for him. He'd been in the other school for however many years, moved over, and there's a lot of lessons learnt from that. So wherever he does go, already through the school, there'll be some phasing, spending, more time at the other setting or building it up just to make that transition. So it's not you stop here, then you move over there. Some just to build that familiarity. So that's been going on. School travel as well. So at the moment, he does get the bus back or has been getting the bus back from school, which he's really struggled with because of the. So there's not that many kids on there, but wheelchairs and other things. It's a packed bus. So again, through some debate, and it's Beck's really to thank for it, not me, with the local authority, and just many conversations, managed to get a personal assistant for that journey, so he can be in a taxi and get back. So that's good for him. And already in an evening, without exaggeration, he's like a different person. He's like before, he was just very, very stressed, getting quite. It's just rare for him, but if he kind of tipped over the edge, quite physical, as well. As I was getting him off the bus, needed a bit of, and I'm not a big person for those who know me. So yeah, that wasn't, that was a sign of no fault of his own that things just weren't good. So the taxi approach, touch wood, is going well with the PA, and she's awesome. And then the final piece is really just getting a bit more into the legal side of things, and this warrants like a separate video. But we have had like a mental capacity assessment, which will be used for. We're going to do 2 court applications, one for deputyship. So basically, this is so that when Finn's an adult, that Bex and I can remain in control of 2 elements of his life. The first one is financial affairs, and he won't be, he's not going to be independent. He certainly, he can't carry the right understanding in terms of, finance, consent, opening a bank account. That's just not going to happen. So we need that when he's 18. The courts need to okay that we can manage that for him. Separate videos on that piece in case it's relevant to what you're after. And then the other piece, the other application, it's a fairly costly thing, is around welfare. So there is some law in place that basically says, if you're a professional, say in the healthcare system, then you've got to do right by, the patient. So the courts sometimes they steer away from giving deputyship to the parents, because they're like, well, if there's an issue, then the healthcare professional, whoever, will make the optimal decision. But we've seen during Finn's life already that hasn't always been the case. For example, he's got very significant epilepsy. He'll have seizures every night, and we've had fantastic hospitals, fantastic individuals propose certain treatments which we know what he won't be able to cope with. Even there's one around certain dieting, which could reduce seizures, favouring that over some surgery and some medication, and that would have meant daily blood tests, daily urine tests, daily submission to the hospital, more frequent visits to the hospital, and it carried not as I think it was under 50%, maybe even as low as 30% potential success rate, and that wouldn't have got rid of the seizures. It was just kind of may have had an effect. So things like that, we want to remain, wrongly or rightly, and kind of feel free to challenge. Maybe appreciate views, but in control of making those decisions. I think there's we've got the broader visibility of what's going on in his life. So, the professionals, and we'll listen. But I think where there's options, we want to not just be an input. We want to, remain firmly in control. So that's it. Yeah, probably a bit of a ramble. Went for a few things there. Expect to see more videos. So we'll get Bex on some of the videos to go through. If you haven't done so already, there's a lot of people that watched the first one. Some cracking comments. Big thank you. But still, a lot of people haven't subscribed. And if you're newish to YouTube or new to YouTube, it is free. All it does is it can notify you if you click the bell that that we've released or uploaded a video. But it also does help us. I think obviously the more kind of subscribers, the more views. The algorithm, the infamous algorithm of YouTube, it kind of pushes the video out. Essentially, obviously, it's getting increasing in popularity. So YouTube then apply more of a focus to get it out there a bit, which we would obviously strongly welcome, because this is quite a niche thing we're talking about here, and locating other parents or carers of those with special needs isn't a straightforward thing. So if you can help by subscribing, it doesn't cost you a penny, but it really helps us. I'll leave it there, and we'll see you very soon. Cheers.